Welcome back, everyone. This is NYU grad with Mark from Efani. And I've alluded to this podcast interview a few times. Just wanted to quickly tee up that I am actually a customer of Efani for over a year, and I'll pass the mic over to Mark so he can give himself a quick introduction about himself, his background, and who is Efani.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. Appreciate that. So, a little bit about myself. My name is Mark Kreitzman, and I jumped into cybersecurity before it was even called cybersecurity. And I think when I joined my first pure cybersecurity company, it was 2001, and that was a startup that was in the cloud email security business, and that was acquired by Microsoft. And then I jumped to a cloud web security company, and I worked for founders there that ended up getting acquired by Cisco Systems. So if you're using email security from Microsoft or web security from Cisco Systems, I had something to do with that. And a couple other startups in the middle. And then around 2018, I had gotten into Bitcoin and crypto at that point, and I was starting my own crypto company, and in the middle of that, I got SIM swapped, and it was
Wow.
a painful enough thing where I actually, through the process of getting SIM swapped and dealing with the aftermath and being so angry about what happened to me, I searched out the only person I could find that said they had solved the problem. They happened to be in crypto as well, and they had already established a company called Don'tport, and we kind of hit it off just because we were both in crypto. We both wanted to do cybersecurity, and I dropped what I was doing, and a couple months later, we named the company Efani, and Efani has been under that Efani brand now for about 4.5 years, close to 5 years.
Got it. So it sounds like a bad situation presented a great situation for you, both personally and on the business front. And thank you for sharing not only your background, but how this all started with a sim hack. So as you know, Mark, I actually found Afani and you after I was sim hacked a little bit over a year ago. And for some of the subscribers who are listening, who I have shared this a few times on the podcast, but for those that are tuning in for the first time, I'll kind of walk through and Mark, let me know how typical this sounds or atypical this sounds for a customer profile of Afani. So I was with one of the major carriers, the top three, whether it's Verizon, T-Mobile, or AT&T. And during one of the holiday weekends, I had received a text message saying, if you initiated this SIM activation, press one. If you did not, and we don't hear from you in like 15 minutes, we'll go through with the processing this whatever it is, a SIM change. So when I got the text, and I'm already a skeptical person by nature, um, I immediately looked at my like my carriers. I'm just going to share it was T-Mobile. I looked at their 1-800 number and I called them rather than replying to this text, not knowing if this was a fraud or if it was legit. And during the holiday break, the whole time was like over half an hour. And I'm waiting on hold, and then the text message reminds me that it's going to go through with the SIM change. And the next thing I know, I'm on hold with the carrier, and it disconnects. So my
Oh,
phone completely becomes a brick. But while I was on hold, I was already imagining what was going on the other end. And I had the means of a landline to call all of my financial institutions back to back. And I let them know I was under some type of hack, and to lock down all wires and outbound ACHs for until further notice. Um, so that's kind of how this whole all happened. I was able to remedy it. I actually was lucky enough to know folks at these financial institutions to help make sure to lock it down. But funny enough, it was hard to get back my phone number from the carrier. So, I was lucky that the carrier's retail store was open. So I'm like running to the retail store, say, "Hey, I'm being hacked. I need someone's help." Right? And they had customers in there looking at me like, "What the hell is going on?" And I explained the situation. And what was so frustrating is that when they put a new SIM card in my phone and they want to try to activate that new SIM card, they have to send a text message to confirm I want that change. And that text message is going to the hacker.
Yeah.
And they're saying no, 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 no. So the hack was deep enough because I knew people at the financial institutions, and they were able to even see screenshots of the of where the hackers clicked in my account and what they saw. So I felt uncomfortable enough to in the transition from my carrier to Efani to lose my old phone number. So I changed to a new phone number, and I actually had to change all my financial accounts to brand new accounts. So I'll pause there. I have some other thoughts, and I'll go through some of these thoughts when I have like a whole list of free tips that consumers can take to prevent some of this from happening. But from what I've told you so far, what are your thoughts? How I handled it? Could I have done anything better? And does this sound similar to what you're hearing from customers from Afani?
Yeah, I've heard many similar stories. So a lot of the times when somebody calls us and they've been a victim and they're looking to purchase a Fani, they'll end up talking to me just because I'm kind of the security nerd here at Efani, and I also like to learn about the different hack methods, how people got hacked. So, this text that you got, yeah, that's been happened to many victims where it gives them a time limit. The only twist that I've heard that's different is they'll get that text message saying, if you didn't initiate this, click here, and then it'll be followed up with like 1,000 text messages, and so that they can't even get to that text message to try and cancel it. I would say that running to the store, I've heard that many times, where they rush off to the nearest phone store, and you're lucky it happened to you at a time when a phone store in your area was still open. And the fact that it happened to you and you actually had access to your phone right away. In fact, you were on your phone when it happened. That's very, very lucky. And so, in a lot of cases, yeah, in my case, I happened to be in the middle of the desert between Phoenix and Tucson, and so when
Wow.
I lost coverage, that was it. Like, there's no payphones out there, and my choice was to go to a Walmart and beg to use somebody's phone, and then the carrier is going to think I'm the hacker, or
Right.
drive a little bit longer and go to my parents' house because that's where I was heading in the first place, from Northern California. And so, they got me at the right point. Now, when I chose to just go directly to my parents' house, and when I pulled up in the front of the garage, the Wi-Fi kicked in because I had already put in the passcode from my prior visit, and 6 password resets went on my phone.
Wow.
And so I was one of those people who couldn't get to uh, the carrier in time and then got hit. So I got a bank account hacked into. I got a cloud account, an email account, one crypto account where they stole. At that time, it was only about $6,000 worth of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But when I do the math now on what that would have been worth, and I knew it at the time. It's like I know I'm going to regret, like 5 years from now. This is going to feel like it's so huge, and so and it still does. And so you're lucky in that sense. But yeah, this happens to a lot of different people, and it's just all kinds of different methods as to how it's happening.
Got it. Yeah, and I knew a few folks that this has happened to in the past as well. And even for my own case, it doesn't seem that there's a high consequence for the nefarious actors in this play. Oftentimes, so I was aware that my SIM swap hacker was based in the US, because they actually eventually got caught victimizing other people, and then that all got routed back to me because basically the banks go after financial institutions are going after them, not so much the consumer, because we, the consumer, don't know who these people are. But the banks have more technology to see like where the IP addresses might be masked from, and just the history of these attacks. But through that, I learned that that person was from the U.S. But a lot of times, this is happening overseas, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can Google, and there was like a gang, and at least they called it a gang, a group of people in the UK were SIM swapping people in the US. So you can SIM swap from anywhere in the world,
Right.
and they're really, you're right, there is no consequences. So somebody could say, for example, try and impersonate me and go into a store and go into with a fake ID and do all their research on me and go in there, and if the store says, oh yeah, we can't qualify you, there's no consequence. They just walk out and go to the next store, just drive 5 miles down the road, go to another store, try it again. Maybe they could even learn from it each time, until
Yep.
they get to maybe they get to a third party store where they haven't vetted their employees, and the employees don't care, and they're like, okay, great, you want to buy a phone, sure, and want to allow somebody to buy a phone off of, if I did have an account with one of the carriers, which I don't these days. Um, but yeah, there's no consequence. And then once you get SIM swap, um, yeah, you're lucky in the sense that the bank, you have friends at the banks. So a lot of times they're not going to help, but at least it's insured. These crypto companies, they have no resources. They're not going to pursue these people, and they don't have insurance. If you look at the terms of like any of these U.S. based crypto companies, they'll say like
Hmm.
your crypto is insured uh, from theft, or loss of crypto, unless it's as a result of criminal activity. Well, SimSwap's criminal activity. So if somebody SimSwaps you and steals 100 grand out of your Coinbase account, then it's not insured by Coinbase. Like, it's gone. And
Wow, I didn't know that.
yeah, and then I don't know what your experience was, but my experience, and then every other victim I've talked to, is once they get SimSwapped, when they start to ask the carrier like, how did it happen, who did it, they go into liability protection mode, and they have an 800 number that's like, okay, well, for criminal activity, I got to call there. So you call there, and they're like, well, only police can call here. So you get a policeman who's going to be confused about what a SIM swap is, and they'll call, and then they say, oh, okay, yeah, this is for policemen, but you got to have a warrant. And so
Yep.
now they and so they've got this process where it's like they just want you to go away. And then if you decide to sue, you're going to find out they've all slipped in arbitration clauses, which means you now have to, if you want to sue them, you got to go to arbitration court with an arbitration attorney. And I talked to a number of attorneys because attorneys want to, be our feeder. They want to partner with us and have us feed them victims, and so I get to learn about the legal side of this and what happens in these court cases. And also, I've been asked to be an expert witness multiple times, and I just don't have the time to do it. And I'm not trying to make money by the hour, but I've talked to several attorneys that tell me that that usually they settle for about 35-40% of the total losses, and then the attorney fees come out of that.
Right. I mean, it's really bizarre. I mean, I don't want to go into too much details of my case because it's actually still in the court system. But the general gist that I got was, if uh, it's like their first offense, uh, they're just gonna go free with a slap on the wrist. And it's just so alarming, you know.
Well,
And
some of these sim swappers, like hackers, like too strong. It gives them too much credibility. A lot of this is like 15, 16, 17-year-old kids,
Mhm.
and so they've got a buddy that works at a phone store, or they're making a deal with somebody, or they've got a voice that sounds old enough they can impersonate an adult, and There was two of the biggest SIM swaps in history were done by a 15-year-old kid. He stole 24 million from one person, and
Wow.
there's a few teenagers got together out in Silicon Valley, and they
So
got
did they
busted.
ever catch that teenager?
They did. They caught him like a year, 2 years later, and only because he had made some really dumb purchases. And
Like a plane or a
yeah,
Lamborghini?
well, he ended up like working with somebody else um, who was older than him and obviously dumber, and had told a couple people about what they had done, and so he ended up actually getting busted through somebody else that he was sort of partnering with to do some of this stuff.
Got it.
Uh, there's
Speaking of, oh, go ahead. I didn't mean to
I was going to
interrupt
say
you.
there's some teenagers out in Silicon Valley where they actually SIM swapped like their friends' parents, and they ended up stealing. I think the article said that they had stole up to like somewhere around $40 million from people in their neighborhood,
Wow.
and so yeah, there's a big influencer who got SIM swapped probably about 6 or 7 months ago, and I had a couple calls with him, and he's got a big court case going, so I can't say who it is, but
Sure.
he's he got hit by a big gang.
Wow.
I thought I got dropped from the call, but you put some up.
Yeah, no, I
So,
just want to share my screen because I had some notes on some recent hacks, and
oh yeah,
I didn't want to lose track of this while we're talking about this. I thought it would be a good segue for the listeners tuning in. So one of the things I took a quick poll when I kind of teased to the subscribers of this upcoming podcast with you as the guest. And
yeah,
some of the feedback I got was, "Oh yeah, like I heard about the recent AT&T hack with the text message threads. Like I don't care if someone reads my text." So I don't think the public truly understands the multifaceted approach that these hacks are happening, and that just because one hack happened this week doesn't mean it's the end, right? Because they're stitching together your your historical digital history so they can then go and hack away later on. But some of the things that I pulled up just top of mind and some links that I found was like that Rock You 2024 hack that happened recently. I think it was like 10 billion passwords. Um, the AT&T hack obviously was just like last week, where it had like I think it was like I forget how many text messages, but even before,
the 110 million customer records.
oh my
100 is
God.
basically their entire customer database.
Yeah, so number wise, that's even worse than the previous hack where they said it was like 6 million existing customers and 60 million previous customers. Uh, and all of, and we're not picking on AT&T. You know, T-Mobile has been hacked, Verizon has had lapses, Boost Mobile, they've all had some type of lapse. Um, and one thing I read that was really curious was it was posted on MSN just last Friday that the recent AT&T text message hack could have been attached or affiliated with the same person who was involved with the T-Mobile hack from a few years ago. So obviously, there's not high enough consequences for them to stop.
Yeah, so I don't know the details on that yet. So I don't think they've come out officially and stated. But just to kind of clarify what happened on this AT&T hack, because it's actually bigger than AT&T. And so what had happened with that is that they actually found out about this major hack on August 19th. And what it was there's a cloud provider called Snowflake.
Yep.
And what Snowflake does is they are a cloud-based data storage company that allows like analysis and things on data. So they had 160 customers, and 160 customers loaded up their customer database into Snowflake. And so AT&T was one of those. So AT&T loaded up 110 million customer records, but it was also Ticketmaster, um, um, Advanced Auto Parts, State Farm, a couple banks. There's like 15 or 16 huge logo names, and AT&T happened to be the biggest one. And so these companies loaded up their customer data onto Snowflake, and Snowflake only required a login and password. They didn't require 2FA. They didn't require Authenticator app. They didn't require. It looks like they didn't even require like SMS
Wow.
verification. And so what happened was this hacker found out about how lax their security was, and so he was putting malware on people's devices and collecting the login and password. So this hacker or hackers basically just logged into Snowflake and stole all this data. And so for somebody to say like, yeah, I don't care if somebody's like reading this or that, the damage that can be done from this is this is going to result in another wave of SIM swaps. So this
Right.
is going to be information because like the parts store that had social security number, that had all kinds of personal information, and a number of other ones had personal information. So this hacker has all of that, and so it's going to be SIM swaps. So they're going to steal your mobile account away and reset passwords. There's going to be they're going to use this information to do early tax filing on people and have your filed so that you get a refund and have it sent to an address where they pick up the refund. There's going to be identity theft and loans taken out in people's names. Like this is going to be it's going to be like 10 years of this,
Yeah,
and it's
I
going
mean,
to be a
that's
total
pretty
mess.
scary.
Oh yeah,
And to segue off of that, I remember, the thing that triggered me years ago to lock my social security number was the hack on the consumer credit agencies,
yeah,
because it seemed
yeah,
like everybody's social got hacked there. And that's when I first, even before this whole SIM swap thing, that's when I first started to see weird activity just across my account, like, two iPhones being opened up at the carrier in my name, or like I'll get a message saying, hey, confirm if you applied for this mortgage. Like, I hope they bought a really nice house because in my name, because I'm moving in then.
yeah.
It's like, I was like, "What is going on?" So I locked my social, and I'll cover some of like the things that I would recommend consumers to do. But just to kind of stay on topic of some of the recent hacks that I thought it was kind of amusing that the SEC's Twitter/X account was hacked via a SIM swap. You would think
Yeah.
they would have the wherewithal to be using double or like two-factor authentication. And then the other one, was the MGM Las Vegas. It wasn't a SIM hack, but it was just a cyber attack where they were probably accessing all of the MGM, uh, reward members' account information, is what I would assume.
Yeah, we ended up getting a lot of customers out of Vegas there for about a month, and
Wow.
and a lot of scattered like executives from um, the different casinos there. And the SEC one is an interesting one because a lot of people don't realize how the early announcement of the Bitcoin ETF happened. So that was a SIM swap, and so somebody took over a number that controlled the SEC's X.com account, and then put that announcement out about the Bitcoin ETF being approved. Obviously, it was early, and so imagine that wasn't stealing $100,000 from somebody. I mean, imagine how much money was made and lost off of that fake announcement.
Yep.
That's kind of crazy, and it was just from simply stealing somebody's number away.
That is just so wild to me. All right. So the only other one that I had that I don't want to dismiss are the mortgage servicing companies. Not many people know about this hack, but I just did some quick research the other day, and these mortgage servicing companies, whether it's Loan Care, Fidelity, Mr. Cooper, or Loan Depot, represent a huge percentage of consumer mortgage loans in this country. And I've applied for a mortgage. I'm sure you have as well. It's such an invasive process because you need to supply everything, your tax returns, your pay stubs, uh, your entire financial life has to be submitted to these mortgage servicers. And when I saw that these were hacked, it just sent chills down my spine. Because if you wanna SIM hack or just have some type of cyber attack with financial fraud, this is the honeypot.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, they have everything they need to try and ruin somebody's life.
It's really, really scary. But let's kind of transition here. I wanted to share. I think this is the first time I'm sharing this publicly, as well as with you. I want to give kind of like top 10 or 11 tips that consumers can uh, take today for free even before signing up for a premium security vendor like Efani. And you tell me which ones you would, I guess, agree with, or what am I missing from this list? And I'll rapid fire through these so we don't belabor too much time, and then we can go back and pick apart any that come up that you want to comment on. So the first one I've already mentioned. Lock or freeze your social security number. It prevents anyone, even if they have your social, or your financial information, even your driver's license, to open up bank accounts and or apply for credit cards or mortgages in your name. Number two, whenever possible, to use two-factor authentication. And if possible, even better, is to not use your cell phone for text temporary passwords, but use an authenticator. There are many companies that provide the service, like a Microsoft, like a Google, but these are the systems that spit out a random passcode every 30 or 60 seconds rather than texting you for forgotten password, temporary passcodes. Number three, do not use your voice for two-factor authentication. Because I remember when my bank was saying, oh, we're going very high tech, you can now use your voice for two-factor authentication. I was like, no way. Because my history with AI and working at Adobe, as some of my subscribers know, in my past, I saw early beta of how software can take a few sentences of you reading something and completely mimic your voice, and they could type whatever they want and your voice will say those words. So do not use your voice for two-factor authentication. Log into your current carrier's app or website and make sure your SIM card is locked, because I found on my account the default setting was not locked. So that is totally confusing to me why it's not a default setting. Um, and then use multi-factor authentication for all of your stock and financial and crypto. Use cold storage for crypto at all times. Use VPN service when possible. Use different emails for different functions, like free newsletters versus your bank versus your family emails, etc. And then back to the SIM hack itself. If you ever get a text saying press 1 to confirm your SIM card activation and you did not initiate it, just know you're probably under attack, and get ready to call your financial institutions with a landline or Skype or Google phone or some other form outside of your cell phone. Um, and then alert them of what's happening and freezing out all ACH and wire transfers until further notice. And then the last one is, if you are under a SIM swap attack, most likely the people closest to you are going to also be under attack as a backdoor. So those are all my free tips. Thoughts? Give me a A to a F rating here.
Oh, I'd give you close to an A rating. I mean, I would say that yes to all of these. The only caveats I would say just on number four with the SIM pin lock, that if you're using a physical SIM, then yes, do the SIM pin lock, but just be aware that that doesn't prevent a SIM swap. So what that does is a SIM pin lock means that if let's say you lose your phone or somebody steals your phone and they want to try and get into your accounts via your mobile account, they're going to take your SIM card out and put it in another phone.
Hmm.
And so what that SIM pin lock does is it makes sure that that physical SIM cannot be used in another phone. But a SIM swap is getting the carrier's network to point your account to your SIM card to actually a SIM card in somebody else's phone. So the SIM pin lock is actually taken out of the equation under a SIM swap attack. And so I just want to make that clear. In terms of like number 9, it's like hard for me to say, like, if I got this message where it's like press 1 to confirm or 2 to cancel, would I do it? Because I live sort of in a paranoid place now, being a victim. And there's part of me that would think, like, is this a fake SMS where if I hit 1 or 2, it doesn't matter. If I just simply reply to it, is that going to execute code and grab information off my phone?
Right.
And so it could be actually a real message where you can actually cancel it, but it could be a phishing attack as well. But either way, if you didn't initiate it, you're under attack. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And that's why I didn't press 1 to confirm, because I had no idea, because I've never received that type of text before, if it was legit or not. And that's the scary part here, is that we're so used to just giving out our phone numbers to people, whether you meet a new friend or a business partner at a trade show, or you're dating and you're giving out your number. It's just and then you look at your text message thread, it's just bombarded with uh, family, friends, business, forgot password, uh,
Yeah.
text messages. So it's really hard to know. So I'm happy to hear I got an A, but let's be honest, like the easiest way to avoid all this, and I'm saying this because I'm a customer and I've never been SIM swapped since, is to join Efani. I remember the stress level that I was having during the SIM attack as well as after, right? Because there was like that period of time when I was vetting multiple companies. I was talking with you initially. I was you were nice enough to introduce me to the CEO of the company. Um, and just that few days of vetting that I was still with the old carrier, I could not sleep well. Right. And I
Yeah.
knew like my banks were on lockdown. All the bank representatives knew what happened. So they were watching out for all of my accounts across multiple institutions. But you just still have that nagging feeling that your space, your security, it was invaded. Like it was like someone invaded your home, basically. And it's not a good feeling. And I'm sure, obviously, you can relate to this. Um, but I did want to kind of I some of these questions I know the answers to, but obviously, if folks have never heard of Efani, they might ask this. So I'll repeat some of the FAQs that I've asked you in the past. So one of the things that I loved about Efani was how serious you take this security as a company, as a culture. And one thing that obvious, like for the carriers, they want to make it easy for you to switch, right? Like if they have a discount, if they offer you a new iPhone for free, you can go from one carrier to 2 other carriers in the same day. Uh,
Yeah.
and they want to make that easy. So that also makes it easy for attacks. But what I found wonderful with Afani is that once you're in, it's actually hard to port out and get attacked, because not only do you have that 11 layer of security, and I don't want you to give us a secret sauce, right? I don't want people trying to backward engineer and hack you, but talk a little bit about that. And then there's a mention of a cool down period. I would like you to explain to the subscribers and listeners what that is.
Yeah, absolutely. So what makes us different is we actually are the mobile provider. So we're set up to resell AT&T and Verizon. But obviously, you could buy directly, or you can buy AT&T from Efani, and there's major differences in doing that. So if you buy AT&T directly, then AT&T has all your information, your payment information, verification, all your call records and everything, obviously, because they just got hacked and all that's out in the open. Um, and and then they have all these loopholes in terms of you can go into an AT&T store, you can go into a third-party store, an independent retailer, there's resellers, and the industry is built such that, like Efani, we're a reseller of AT&T as an example, and so we have portals into every mobile carrier there is, whether it's Mint Mobile, T-Mobile, AT&T, and we can port somebody to Efani without ever having to talk to the carrier that we're porting from, and the customer never needs to talk to them.
Wow.
And so the industry is built to be like really cheap. When you want to leave, it's like, okay, like we're going to make this super cheap on your way out. We don't want to spend any money, and we're just going to have all this, APIs built so that people can easily come and go. But when you move into it, when you get ported into Efani, we lock your account down, and everything we do after that's manual. So there's no freebies of like Netflix, Hulu, because that's all data stealing and profiling and things you don't want to happen to you on your mobile account. We also lock out all of the carrier employees, their stores, third-party stores, their call centers from having any access. So you yourself, like if you went into the carrier that you're using with Efani and took your passport, your driver's license in there, and you can test this, and just go in there with your driver's license, passport, and just ask them something simple like, how much data have I used this month? And they're going to try and help you, but they're going to eventually say like, yeah, we can't access your account.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we've done is we've eliminated all the people that can be bribed, be tricked, social engineered, be collecting your verification information, via like camera or, however they're, because you're basically handing your verification information over to do anything with them, whether you're in a
Yep.
store or on talking to the 800 number. And
Yep.
so they can, document that and then sell that to the real hackers, or be paired up with an outsider to work together to SIM swap you. So we're eliminating all those people that can do those middleman attacks, and then we're providing 7x24 support via chat, call, email, messaging, and then as you mentioned, we have 11 layers of protection for the risky transactions, and then you can also create your own custom step as well. And so
And
if you want
that's the
12
one.
steps,
Yeah, no, and that's the one that I love too, right? And I haven't taken advantage of that yet, because my creative mind is going nuts with that. Um, and it's just like the extra step where it would almost be impossible to hack, right? And I'm just using my imagination here. So let's say my 12th layer, I don't know, Mark, I have a lawyer. In order to do the SIM swap out of Afani, that 12th layer is going to be confirmation from my lawyer. And he actually has a secret password question and answer. Right? Like, how is a hacker or a SIM swapper going to get past that?
yeah, they're not going to know. They're not going to know who to call. I mean, it could be as simple as like the name of your first dog or something. Something that's not online and something that
Right.
somebody never be able to guess. We do have a celebrity as an example out of Hollywood where they have 12 people that surround them. They're all using Efani. And for any kind of risky transaction, like somebody got a new phone or somebody calls up and says, can I have, the call records for the last 30 days? For one, we don't collect data. And so we would have to actually make a request from the carrier, and the carrier would provide the info, but they wouldn't have a name to associate it with it. But it can be retrieved, but we don't collect it. But that's an example of where if anyone asks for a port out or like a change of a new phone, then we have to actually call the attorney
Right.
that would approve that for
In that
somebody else.
case, if that was my 12th custom layer, that's pretty gangster, man. That
Yeah.
is and at that point, if you're the SIM swap hacker, you're gonna be like, what's the point? There's so much other low-hanging fruit at the other carriers. on these major carriers. Like, why am I gonna try to hack this person, when I could just go after the next person who I can find all this information and they're on one of the other carriers?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think, I mean, at this point, I don't think that anyone's really even gotten past like 3 layers. Um,
Right.
in, in the rare attempts. Now, the one thing about our service is that, your phone doesn't say Efani at the top. If somebody stole your phone or saw that you're, using it, it's going to say AT&T or Verizon at the top, so they don't even know to call Efani,
Right.
and that's kind of part of the security as well. But even if they know somebody's using Efani, they're probably not going to get past the first 2 questions. They would it would have to, yeah, it would have to be like just to get to like 3 layers, it'd be pretty tough.
Yeah, no, I sleep very well, Mark, knowing that I'm with you guys, and it's why I wanted to share this service and company with a new audience for Afani and my existing subscribers. Everyone that I deal with in this Substack world, uh, they have worked hard to build wealth, whether it's their 401k, their small checking account, even if it's a small checking account, they worked hard for that, or their crypto assets, which can be sizable, from what I'm hearing. Uh, they should be protecting themselves. And I think the cell phone is one of the weakest links that people are not thinking about. I do know some folks that are hyper vigilant, where one person I know does not even have a cell phone, right? So,
Yeah.
but that's very rare in this world. And I think when you take a look at the entire population, I think the cell phone is the weak point for many hackers. Whereas before it used to be like the computer and your email, but now it's the cell phone, because that really is our computer these days.
Yeah, it is the easiest. It's just like we talked about before, like, a lot of people don't realize that, they've given their social security number over to these carriers when they signed up. So,
Yep.
so in a sense, they have a credit account. And so, one of the fastest growing methods of SIM swapping is somebody going in, impersonating somebody, they're using the little sales spiff, of a third party store reps, because you go in there and you're like, oh, I want to buy a phone and a line,
Hmm.
and uh, and then you impersonate somebody and you buy a phone and a line off somebody's account. Then you go home and then you call the carrier, the 800 number, from a phone that's on the victim's account and a line that's on the victim's account. So
Oh, wait a
the
minute. Let me rewind this, because now I'm painting a picture that I didn't even thought about. So let's say I'm the hacker now and you're the victim.
Yeah,
So I already know your social, your bank account information, your passport. I have it. I actually have a copy of it. I go to one of these third party stores in the mall or a strip mall or wherever. Uh, I say, hey, I'm Mark's brother or
but
son.
you just say you're me. I mean,
Oh,
you
okay.
could just say
I'm
you're me.
Mark. Here's my ID. I want to add 2 iPhones or one iPhone to my line. They want to sell the iPhone because they get a commission, so they do it. No harm, no foul. I supplied the evidence that I'm Mark, so they don't care. They're covering their butt. I take that new phone on your line to some cyber cafe or wherever, my dungeon. I call the carrier, pretend that I'm you, say, "Hey, I just added this phone to my line.
Yeah,
I
well,
also would
you
like."
would you would buy a phone and add a new line.
Okay.
So you'd actually have a phone number on my account as well
Wow.
that you're going to call
That
from.
is nuts. And then I could change the password.
And when you bought the phone and you bought the extra line, like after you're verified, you could easily say like, oh, by the way, can I add another email to my account?
Yeah.
I want to change my password. But when you go home or wherever you're going to go, you probably don't want to go home, just so they're not track your location. But wherever you call from, you're calling from a device that, on the carrier side, they know the device ID, the MZ number of the line. Obviously, you're calling from a phone line that is off of my account. And so it's just much easier. Now, what you do is you call them up and say, like, oh, you know what? I want to switch my old line to my new phone.
Yeah, that
And
is
now you've got
nuts.
me. Now you've got me. So, so Bart Stevens, he's the CEO of Blockchain Ventures. That's how he got hit. And they took him for 6.3 million in Bitcoin.
Wow. Wow. And
Yeah.
I don't know that story, but was he ever able to get that back somehow through private investigators
Um,
or?
that's a good question. It happened within I think the last like 8 months. So yeah, I'll have to go and search, but
Yeah.
I think it's gone. I
Wow.
don't see how it's gonna I don't see how it's gonna get found. There's a lot of companies out there that will say like they can uh, find your crypto and get it back, and they used to do it for a sort of a bounty. Be like, oh, no upfront money. And now they're all sort of hawks. Like they don't do it for a bounty anymore. It's like you got to pay $5,000, $10,000, and you got to risk to see if they're gonna try and find it and get it back. But um, these days, like there's ways to hide your crypto, sending it through tumblers and converting it to Monero or something, and transfer it a number of times and convert it back. I mean, there's just ways they can clean it fairly
Yeah.
quickly. Also, they're going to send if they're stealing crypto, they're going to send it to a wallet that's not KYC'd, and but it's gone. It's very, very rare that you can get it returned. Really the only way to get your crypto back if it's a SIM swap is to go to arbitration against the carrier.
That is crazy, Mark. I can't even imagine, right? Like I was able to at least stop the damage. I can't imagine what that must feel like. Um, and it upsets me. And it upsets me that there's no recourse or consequences.
Yep.
Uh, so I hope that as time goes on, and I think this is a kind of my final thought on this is that I hope more customers find their way to Efani and to you before they get hacked. Um, because as the data states, majority of these hacks are successful, and
Yep.
I think yeah, it's a little bit more money to protect yourself with Efani versus like a Minta Mobile that has no security, but in my eyes, it's a free service. Uh,
Yeah, if you're already on AT&T and Verizon especially, then you're really just rerouting your budget. And in most cases, yeah, it's like another 10 or $15 per month. There's a few rare cases where we actually are cheaper.
mhm.
Now, the one thing that we do add, in addition to, because our price includes like AT&T's voice, data, text, US, Canada, Mexico, hotspot, Wi-Fi calling, but we also provide free international data roaming for business trips and vacations.
Yep, I've
And
already taken
so,
advantage of that.
yeah, and so I've used that so many times. I've been in 6 different countries in the last year, and I've used our own free international data roaming every single time. And so if you travel internationally just like 2 or 3 times a year, then that already makes it like a no brainer.
Yep.
But the privacy, the SIM swap security, and then we provide a $5 million insurance policy
Yeah,
that
and that's
any kind of
unbelievable. And I read
yeah
through it, and it's legit. Um,
yeah
I hope obviously I never have to use that, but
yeah you could like the simplest way to describe our company is that we protect important people, and but that also we're a mobile carrier, and we want to defend this insurance policy from ever being used. And so that's why we're willing to do the verifications and go the extra mile and do things the carriers won't do because they have no insurance. They've done the math and they just slipped in arbitration clauses, and it works out better for them that way. But for us, we're going to do everything we can to protect that insurance policy from ever being used. And so that's the simplest way to describe our business is we're a mobile operator. We're there to protect that insurance policy, which means we're going to protect people like you and others.
I feel very safe with my mobile identity with Efani. So I'm super happy that I can find you guys and hopefully get more customers and presence for Efani. So I did want to close out and just remind folks that there will be a discount code. I will link it in the show notes for the podcast and any of the social media platforms that I'm on, but it's NYU grad is the code. But if you use the landing page, you will automatically get the $99 off the annual plan. If you choose the monthly, you will get 1 month free. And if you have more than 4 lines, hit me up with a message or an email, and I can introduce you to Mark and his team for white glove support, whether it's a business, a family, etc. So, did I miss anything there, Mark?
No, and we would prefer that if you're interested and you want to buy from Efani, you're more than welcome to schedule a call. There's a book a sales call button on that landing page as well. But please use that URL. It allows us to know where you came from in terms of what channel. But it is a $99 promo code, and we'd love to provide you with a discount. And we'd love to have each and every one of you as part of our secure mobile uh, team.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. If I get questions from the audience, we may have to do a revisit, or I'll send you over some questions I get from the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to have a new product out in a couple months as well, but that may be a good enough reason to do this again.
Sweet. Thank you
So,
so much for your time, Mark. I know you're a very busy man.
yep. Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Appreciate you as a customer as well.
Thank you. Not a problem. I'll see you soon, Mark.
All right.
All right. Bye.